wondering, how many people actually know about Newton's laws and friction? I think that would be very interesting to try and find out.
Why don't we try and test it and see what people know and don't know? Okay, let's interview different people about the different laws and see how much they know.
Then we can compare what they know with what we know. Let's start with Newton's forces and end with friction. Okay, what is Newton's first law of motion?
An object at rest will stay at rest.
And then, what is inertia?
So, how hard it is to get like an object to start moving?
Yeah.
Something about that.
And then, what are the forces like on an object that is like in Newton's first law of motion? Yeah. Forces.
This gravity always.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I don't know. Just gravity.
So the first question is, how does the acceleration of an object compare to when it's at rest or at a constant speed? 0. What is required to break inertia? Force. And what defines an object's state of motion?
If it's moving?
First we asked, do you know what Newton's first law states? The answer is, Newton's first law states an object in motion will stay in motion while an object at rest will stay at rest.
Next we asked, what is inertia?
Inertia is the tendency for an object to continue doing what it's doing.
The third question was, what are the forces like on an object that is in Newton's first law of motion? The answer is, the forces must be balanced in order for Newton's first law to be applied to an object.
Next we asked, how does the acceleration of an object compare to when it's at rest or at a constant speed? The answer is, if an object is at rest or experiencing a constant speed, the acceleration is the same at 0 meters per second.
Then we asked, what is required to break inertia? Unbalanced forces need to be present in order to break inertia.
The last question was, what defines an object's state of motion? And the answer was, an object's state of motion is determined by its velocity.
What is stated in Newton's second law?
What's in motion stays in motion.
Okay, and what is the net force on an object? What does net force mean?
With gravity and other forces pulling on it.
And what is the unit for force?
Newton.
As stated in Newton's second law, what is the relationship between mass and acceleration?
I have no idea.
Okay. What's the relationship between acceleration and the magnitude of the force?
I have no idea.
How is Newton's second law different from Newton's first law?
I have no idea.
Stated in Newton's second law. The correct answer is, Newton's second law states the equation F equals ma, which is force equals mass times acceleration.
The second question is, what is the net force on an object? The answer is, the net force on an object is the vector sum of all the forces acting on that object.
The third question is, what is the unit for force? The answer is, force is measured in newtons, which is equivalent to 1 kilogram times meters per second.
The second person we asked, the first question that we asked them is, as stated in Newton's second law, what is the relationship between mass and acceleration? The correct answer is, the mass and acceleration are inversely proportional.
Next, we asked, what is the relationship between acceleration and the magnitude of the force? The answer is, the magnitude of the force and acceleration are directly proportional.
The last question is, how is Newton's second law different from Newton's first law? And the answer is, Newton's second law deals with unbalanced forces, while Newton's first law deals with forces that are balanced and equal to 0.
Okay, so what is Newton's third law? What are some types of forces that can be applied to an object? And do all forces require contact? No? Yep, no, that's right.
Okay. Name a scenario of Newton's third law.
I have no idea.
Okay. Is the relationship of the size of a force equal or opposite?
Equal.
And is the relationship of the two directions equal or opposite?
Opposite.
The first question that we asked is, what is Newton's third law? The answer is, Newton's third law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
The second question was, what are some types of forces that can be applied to an object? The answer is normal, friction, tension, applied, gravity, electric, and magnetic forces are all examples.
The third question asks, do all forces require contact? The answer is that gravitational, magnetic, and electrical forces do not require contact.
The next question that we ask the next person is, name a scenario of Newton's third law. An example of Newton's third law is a fish swimming, because the fin pushing on the water has an equal and opposite reaction.
The next is the relationship of the size of a force equal or opposite? And the answer is the size of the two forces are equal.
The last question asks, is the relationship of two directions equal or opposite? And the answer was, the direction of the two forces are opposite.
What is friction?
When two things rub together.
Okay. And how does friction force relate to the motion of an object?
I have no clue.
Okay. And what is meant by the phrase resistance? Like the resistance of an object.
The resistance of an object is... I can't think of it right now. Not in school right now.
What is static friction?
I have no idea.
Okay. What is kinetic friction?
Something to do with kinetic energy. But
That's a good guess. What is the coefficient of friction?
I have no idea.
The first question we asked is, what is friction? The answer is, friction is what holds back the force of a moving object.
Next, how does friction force relate to the motion of the object? The answer is friction opposes the motion of an object and therefore acts in the opposite direction.
The next question was, what is meant by the phrase resistance? The answer is, resistance is the term used to describe the capacity of which an object has to withstand an object.
The next person that we asked him, what is static friction? The correct answer is, static friction is present when an object is at rest.
Next, we asked, what is kinetic friction? Kinetic friction is represented when an object is in motion.
The last question is, what is the coefficient of friction? The answer is, the coefficient of friction is the value which describes the ratio of the force of friction between two objects when pressing them together.
Seems like a lot of people don't know a lot about physics.
And it's a very important thing to know.
We're really lucky to have been in a class where we know the laws. It's very important to know for our life in the future.